With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Hey Bourbon Lifers, I've got something really special to share with you. Company Distilling is an award-winning distillery nestled in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. Founded in 2020 by friends with a rich history of building distilleries and distilling award-winning whiskey, Company Distilling is dedicated to crafting exceptional spirits that give you a reason to gather around with the best of company. Chris Tatum and Jeff Arnett have been part of the ever-changing landscape of the industry for a combined 30-plus years, and they're continuing that tradition with Company Distilling. When you pour a glass of Company, you're experiencing something new and innovative, but after one sip, you'll know it's not their first go-round. If you'd like to experience this award-winning whiskey, visit one of their 2 distilleries in Tennessee or find Company Distilling on shelves near you. Don't miss out on this incredible spirit made for the best of company. Visit CompanyDistilling.com to learn more.
Limestone Farms bourbons are like a secret portal to a world of rich flavors where high proof meets smooth satisfaction. Every barrel is meticulously crafted and blended with a specific message in mind. Experience clean delineated flavor profiles that will have you engaged from the first sip to the final drop, making your palate beg for just one more taste. Limestone Farms, bringing heritage home.
We're all familiar with finishing bourbon in wine barrels, but finishing in a rosé cask, now we're venturing into uncharted territory. For Penelope Bourbon, that uncharted territory lies in the southern Rhone region of France. Their rosé cask finish marries Penelope's straight bourbon whiskey with French Grenache rosé wine cask. The result is a unique aromatic blend of strawberry, floral, and herbal flavors. Take a sip of this one-of-a-kind bourbon at penelopebourbon.com.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, it's my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing out there, man?
Mark, I'm doing great out here. How are you? You doing okay?
Doing great, man. I got whiskey lined up here. I'm ready to drink, you know. I mean, we're not around the flights of the round table here, but, you know, we're still having a good time in the basement hanging out, drinking some whiskey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't even begun yet, so we're having a good time when we haven't even started drinking.
Speak for yourself, Matt. You know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah,
I was on vacation. Today was a vacation day for me. Came back from beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Every
just
day
went
is a
down for a day or
vacation day
two,
for you
headed down to the
when you're living
mountains
the
just to
bourbon
get
life.
away, man. So what'd you say,
You
man?
said every day is a vacation for you when you're
Every
living the
day's a
bourbon
vacation.
life.
Yeah, living the bourbon life, man, for sure. But no, man, I'm happy to be here, happy to be back. We got a great guest tonight. I'm excited about the show, and we've never had him on before, man, which is our oversight. We should have done this years ago, but I'm happy we're going to correct that tonight. But of course, I do have to say we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support, everything they do for us. We couldn't do the show without Liquor Barn, and of course, all of our amazing sponsors, everything they do for us, the support they show us. We love everybody that helps us out with this. So thank you guys to all of our sponsors for what they do. Matt, with that said, would you like to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. Joining us is a guest that we have had on our little chalkboard for quite a while to get lined up, and I'm glad we're finally doing it. But he is the CEO and founder of the distillery in one of my favorite cities in the United States, Chattanooga, Tennessee. So CEO and founder of Chattanooga Whiskey, Tim Piersant. Tim, welcome on to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Yeah, thanks you guys for having me. It's great to be on here. And hey, no worries that it took you this long because we're working. You know, I'm just trying to create history over here. And so simply so that we have more to talk about. That's really the goal, right?
Well, we appreciate that. Now we got all this stuff to catch up on over the last 12 years, man. So we gave you enough time to get a good baseline there that we can start. We won't make it 5 years, 4 or 5 years. We'll try to get back together again before 4 or 5 more
Yeah,
years.
don't hit me in another 12 years. I don't know if I'll be here, but I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Tim, we're excited to have you on the show, man. We really appreciate that. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Looking forward to drinking the whiskeys, and we've had some of your stuff before. Appreciate that. You guys have sent us out several different things over the past couple of years, so we appreciate that. But we're excited to sit down with you tonight, get to drink through some of your product with you. So with that said, would you like to tell everybody what we have poured up on our first round?
Yes. So Chattanooga 91, that is our flagship. Really, 91 and 111 are considered both of our flagships because they're the only two products in our portfolio that share the same recipe. Some may know, some may not know that innovation is kind of key to what we do at Chattanooga Whiskey. And so there are a lot of recipes that we produce. 91 and the 91 and 111 recipe is approximately 75% of our production capacity at our Riverfront distillery, which we have 2 distilleries downtown. And so, and of course, 91 being the lower proof of the two. And really, what we've designed to be the most approachable and most readily available of the two. And really for the average bourbon consumer, we like to lead with the 91 foot. And so that's what we're tasting now.
Great. And this is a 4 grain. You got 4 different grains. Can you kind of tell us what you got in there?
We call it 4 grain, 3 malt Solera barrel finished, as kind of the 3 key points if you have to remember something about 91 and 111. They're 4 grains, 111 is not Solera barrel finished, but 91 is 4 grains, 3 malt Solera barrel finished. The grains are non-GMO yellow corn grown. All of our corn is grown exclusively by Catisa Farms in Riddleton, Tennessee. So it's a 5th generation farmer in Middle Tennessee that is very high quality. Everything we do is with as much intention as possible, and so we're very proud of that relationship, and also what he brings not just to Chattanooga whiskey but to agriculture in Tennessee, and then moving on from that, our rye, instead of a raw rye grain, we utilize malted rye, and we actually utilize 2 different types of malted barleys. So arguably, because they're both malted barley, you could say 3 grain, but it's 4 different types of grains going into the product. So you have caramel malted barley and honey malted barley. Those are the 4 grains involved. And then we'll probably talk more about this later, but because it's not a raw rye, and it's not a small amount of pale malt barley, it's a malted rye, and it's 2 different types of specialty malted barleys. Our whole thing is Tennessee high malt, and so 4 grains, 3 malts, and then of course Solera barrel finished.
Gotcha. So when you say Solera barrel, and we can talk about that because I know we're gonna taste the Founders later, and we get the 3 Solera barrels. But when you say it's Solera barrel finished, what does that mean so our listeners understand that?
So historically, Solera barrel finishing is done in a pyramid of barrels, where you're essentially gaining complexity from different ages of barrels that are kind of flowing through this pyramid of barrels. And again, it's like a cast iron skillet where it's just a layering of complexity over time. We do that same process, but it's for Chattanooga 91, it's a 4,000 gallon white oak Solera barrel with a char on the inside of it. We have 3 Solera barrels, which is very unique to our operation and unique within the world of distilling bourbon. But specifically for 91, it's a 4,000 gallon white oak Solera barrel with a char on the inside. It holds approximately 100 barrels, 153 gallon barrels, and it holds them, and they mature. They continue to mature in there, but the primary maturation, of course, is done in a 53 gallon barrel. So they essentially graduate to straight bourbon whiskey in a 53 gallon barrel. But one of the things that makes Chattanooga unique and our unique style called Tennessee High Malt unique is that every step of the process we go above and beyond, including the fact that we age in different toasts and chars. So 91, when it's fermented and then distilled, each batch that's distilled is actually half of that batch goes into 4 char barrels with no toast. And then the second half of that batch goes into 3 char barrels with a custom toast that we call the 91 toast that we work exclusively with ISC, Independent Stave Company, on. And it's a really long toast. It's actually north of 40 minutes. And then so the barrels go away to age for multiple years to graduate to straight bourbon whiskey. And then we will ultimately, after they graduate to straight bourbon whiskey, blend them together into that Solera barrel, where we're able to blend the unique nuances of 4 chars with no toast and 3 chars with a custom toast together for an indefinite period of time before they're bottled. So really, because a Solera barrel never runs dry, that layering of complexity is infinite, right? So you really, you have products that might be, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. You have products that might be, 3, 4, 5 years old. And so you can't really put an age statement to it because of the layering process.
Yeah, and that's 2 things I was going to kind of point out and make sure I'm right on this. But you said, obviously, they go into the barrels, and they become straight whiskey. So they're aged for at least 2 years.
That's correct. Right.
And then they're put into the Solera barrel, where they could, any portion of any of those barrels could remain and commingle. And like you said, you could have part of an 8 or 9 year old whiskey in there that's commingling with a 2 or 3 year old that you guys just put in, and it never runs out. So that's kind of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course, because we do the different toasts and chars, that's just an additional layer of complexity.
Yeah. Man, that's a lot.
Listen, that Chattanooga whiskey is a lot. We put a lot, into everything that we do, and I think only of our closest of fans really know how much we put into our product, and we're trying to get that message out every day, which here's a great opportunity today. So,
well, we're happy to do that. Matt, let's talk about the whiskey. Since we've kind of dissected it and we understand what it is and how they make it, let's talk about it in terms of the nose. What do you pick out on that?
I really like the nose. I wasn't sure what to expect out of this, and I'm glad I went in with that, having I've not had the 91 before, but looking at the back, seeing the non-GMO yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and also the honey malted barley. I know that Mark and I have had some products before with honey malt that can be a little bit strong. Sometimes that barley takes over on the nose and the palate of different things, but I don't see that here at all. I think the nose is really, really gorgeous. It's nice and fruity. I get like a lot of blueberries, mint, like a creamy, like pancake batter type nose. Just like really nice. Just absolutely delightful, complex, but just like it's a nose I just keep going back to. I'm really enjoying it so much.
Yeah, it's really unique, Matt, because at first when I nose it, it's almost like very bright, very, very light, very bright. But then you go back into it and you start picking out, okay, there's some rye spice, and it's malted rye, but you're still getting some of that spice, I think, that comes from that rye. And you start getting kind of what I would call bourbon notes. You kind of get the sugary type of aroma as well. To me, it comes across almost like a little bit of brown sugar. Maybe a little bit of the barrel as well, but not much. But yeah, I was I want to say I'm pleasantly surprised because I don't know that I've had the 91. I've had other stuff, the experimentals and things that we've gotten from you guys, but I don't remember that I've had the 91. So, and like Matt said, we've had some in the past where we've had that malted barley and and it does sometimes overpower, but you don't have that issue at all on this one, man. So
I think there's some reasons for that, and I understand that over the last several years, as craft has become more popular, and there's a lot of products out there that they're exploring more within the world of malted grains in bourbon and in American whiskey more than ever before. A handful of them have kind of given malted grains a bad rap, and I think this is where you get back to how every step in this process matters. Matt, you mentioned that honey malt sometimes in the past has maybe been off-putting or been too dominant, or I think a lot of that could have to do with the fermentation. What type of yeast are they using? How long are they fermenting? What's the temperature that they're fermenting at? What proof are they distilling at? Are they aging in 53-gallon new American white oak barrels? Is it just a chard? What toast does it have in it? It's obviously not Solera barrel finished. Most of them are not anyway. So these additional steps in the process, they matter, and you can take a product like a really high quality honey malted barley, and that I think if you chew on it, if you smell it and you chew on it, it's really a delightful product. And then now how do you get that to express itself really well in a bourbon? I don't think the answer is a traditional 3-day high heat fermentation distilled at 150 proof and then just barreled at a 4 char with no toast and then thrown into a bottle or thrown into a barrel at 125 proof. Like, I don't think that's the answer. So I think if you work with that grain carefully, I think it will come out in a really beautiful way, and I think we've been able to capture that.
Yeah, very, very well said.
Yeah, I think your answer, Tim, already shows the intention that you put behind stuff. And we're only in the first round here. We've hardly even gotten into Chattanooga whiskey, and it can already tell the intention, the care, and the reason, the thought, the process behind every step of the way. I think we're going to be talking quite a lot and getting that gist throughout the evening tonight.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I agree. So, Tim, let's talk about you. We've talked about the whiskey. Let's talk about you, your background, where you're from, and how did you decide to? We don't want to necessarily start talking about the creation of the brand, but I mean, how did you get into the whiskey industry?
So, born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and which it's kind of funny because back in the day that it felt like everybody was, and now all of a sudden, because Chattanooga's getting a little bit more on the map every day, it's like a rarity that I was born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I am really passionate about Chattanooga being an awesome city and contributing to that. I worked for my dad, so I went off to Auburn University, graduated at Auburn in 2004, and my wife and I, I met my wife at Auburn, and then we married and moved back to Chattanooga and started our life here in 04, 05, and I worked for my dad for the better part of a decade, and my wife and I were living downtown, and we were part of a resurgence, a really big resurgence in downtown Chattanooga. We were at the beginning phase of that, and it was really cool to be a part of that. But from a work standpoint, I was not part of that. I was actually commuting to a city in Georgia, and while I enjoyed working with my dad, and we have a great relationship, and he's a huge Chattanooga whiskey fan, which has been awesome. it was not my future. And so a buddy of mine and I were constantly talking about, you know, I was extra motivated to do my own thing, right? I was really extra motivated to find that. And we, you know, we just discovered, we kind of uncovered, it was literally like turning over this stone, this unturned stone that had never been turned over before. And we discovered the history of whiskey in Chattanooga pre-Prohibition. And it just lit a fire under us instantly. We started Googling and making phone calls, and we could not believe that in 2011, no one had successfully brought a whiskey brand that had more than 30 brands in downtown pre-Prohibition, that in 2011, nearly 100 years later, no one had brought or revived a single thing back in distilling. That's when we learned that it was illegal to distill whiskey and spirits in Chattanooga. And that's, I think, really where we saw an opportunity to make a difference in that we could push through the red tape and tell this story, and we could tell it in a way that people would get excited about. And you know, the timing of Facebook in 2011 was pretty amazing. I mean, it gave us a platform to be able to tell a story every single day and get an entire community on board with that. And get, you know, it got the local media fired up, and you know, we just started to fight, and we started lobbying ourselves, and it was truly a snowball rolling down a hill effect. And then, you know, and then we all of a sudden we formed Chattanooga Whiskey, and we had to fight for 2 years to change the laws, but really it was that passion for bringing something back to Chattanooga that hadn't been done in over a century.
So I mean, you weren't in high school and thinking, man, I want to be a distiller when I grow up. I mean, was it just something that came about after you moved down, you move back, you get married, you're downtown, and just kind of this whole resurgence, doing the research? Is that really the impetus for it?
I grew up with zero alcohol in our house. My dad was in ministry for 16 years when I was a kid.
I think I saw somewhere you graduated from a Christian high school, so I was going to ask you about how that.
Yeah, I graduated from Chattanooga Christian School. My kids today attend Chattanooga Christian School, and if you guys hear sirens, it's because I live downtown. I live in the same house actually I lived in 2004. So. Oh wow. So you know, yeah, it was you know, but. My parents and the way we grew up was, yes, it was definitely like an 80s Christian family, but my parents are still, you know, they're pretty progressive people. And so, yeah, I definitely had the inspiration did not come from high school. And it didn't come from college. I mean, I did drink a little bit in college, and I enjoyed some craft beer. Like I remember having an Abita, you know, from New Orleans in college, and you know, like that was my foray into craft beer, and it was like shocking how the profile was like, man, this is going to be an adjustment actually getting to enjoy this, and then. And the same thing with whiskey, and maybe like a Jack and Coke or Jack and Ginger every now and then. But no, it was not. It was not a passion for whiskey that started this. It was a passion for.
Yes.
It was a passion for. Honestly, I would say it was a passion for changing the rules. That's it. Which became one of our mottos. One of our mottos was our internal mottos was rules are good. Meaning we wouldn't be here if it weren't for those that went before us, and change them, meaning, you know, forge ahead. And so, you know, it was really about changing the rules. That was the passion.
I like that, man. I'm glad you shared that with us. Appreciate that very much. So, Matt, talking about changing the rules, let's change gears here and shift back over to the whiskey. What do you pick up in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
The palate on this drinks a lot like the nose. I think there's no disconnect. Really what I'm picking up on the nose comes through on the palate. I get the char. I think that fore char and the heavy toast really come through. There's like a good amount of like that really nice sweet oak, really round out the start of the palate. Then I get that blueberry note again, like it's like blueberry syrup, almost like blueberry jam type note comes through. Then the rye, a little bit of like light baking spice, touch of cardamoms, like some green peppercorn as well in there. Just like the corn drinks really well. This is like really, really good, flavorful drinking whiskey. It's really nice, really, really well done. I think 91 proof is a great proof for it, for everyday drinking whiskey.
Yeah, it's definitely palatable. There's no question about that. It's not hot, at 91 proof. It's not something that's going to melt your face by any means. The rye does have a nice little kick to it. I mean, to me, I get a lot of, not a lot, but I do get that spiciness you talked about, Matt, the sweetness that you talked about as well. I almost get like a hint of like a chocolate as well on this one, like on the finish. There's almost this little, so you're talking blueberries, Matt, and I was like, man, I wish I could find that note and with a chocolate, because it'd be like a chocolate covered blueberry, but unfortunately I wasn't able to pick out a blueberry. But no, I mean, I really like it. I think it's very well balanced, like you said, Matt. From the nose, there's no disconnect between the nose, the palate, and the finish. It really flows through very nicely, very consistent all the way across the board. So yeah, very, very nice. So Tim, what do we miss, man?
I think I love those tasty notes, and I'm just really happy that you guys enjoy it. So a fun fact, just to throw this out there, because I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but the reason that it's 91 proof is because it came from the recipe came from the 91st barrel distilled at the experimental distillery. And the reason we chose that recipe is because we were coming out of an MGP product. While we were changing the laws, we were selling Chattanooga Whiskey 1816, which was the high rye MGP recipe. So we had this traditional high rye bourbon flavor profile that really a lot of our southeastern drinkers, Chattanooga whiskey drinkers, adapted to, and then we were going to change it on them, right? We were going to 100%. It was a full Band-Aid rip one day, August of 2019. We stopped sourced whiskey. We started, we selected Barrel 91. We scaled it up to Riverfront. It matured to straight bourbon whiskey, and then we switched 100% of our sales over to this new 91 recipe. And so because of that, I want to say we had to get it right, but it was the most imperfect. We knew it was going to be imperfect. The whole concept was for it to be uniquely ours, and that's one of the reasons we chose 91. But another reason we chose the 91st barrel out of the first 100 barrels and recipes distilled at experimental. There were, as you can imagine, a lot of different recipes and options to choose from. Was because it brought a combination of what we love about straight bourbon whiskey and also what we love about these rich roasted and toasted grains.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And roasted and toasted is in all of our advertisement. This is the Tennessee way, made with roasted and toasted grains. So I think when you get, buttermilk pancakes, or I think some of the fruity flavor profile we think actually comes from the Solera barrels, and of course some of those rich roasted and toasted flavor profiles. That's what brings out your graham cracker or your pancakes, and I like to look at 91 and 111 as a s'more. And I like to reference, I feel like 91 is all the flavors you get on the exterior of the s'more as you get your your first bite, and then as you sink your teeth into the middle of the s'more, that's when you start getting those kind of darker, richer flavors, and that comes out, and that's when you start getting 111, right? So I think what you guys are touching on is kind of I mean, it makes sense. It's what 91 was intended to be.
All right, Matt, we did well.
Yeah, well enough, yeah.
All right, well, guys, I'll tell you what, we're at the end of round one here. So, Matt, what are your final thoughts on the 91?
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. Me, definitely. Very, very nice. Well done, Tim. Congratulations. Not that you need us to tell you that, but yeah, we both obviously.
Hey, I just like to point out that, it's a low $30 product. And for everything that we put into it, value is key, especially in this market today. And it's not, we have other products that range upwards of, $60 or $70, but we pride ourselves on value. And I feel like 91, it's designed to be, it's not designed. Look, if you have your proof, what do we call them? There's a million cliche bourbon terms out there, but your proof hounds, your proof hounds might not prefer 91 because it's going to be a medium bodied. It's not going to be a full bodied product. Right. But man, for me, and I think for people that are looking for something that's a little bit more roasted and toasted, a little bit richer in flavor profile, but still like light and approachable and easy sipping, I think 91 kills it.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's very, very nice. I can't wait to get into this 111 in the next round. So let's take a quick break. We'll get a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more with Tim Piersant with Chattanooga Whiskey in just a minute. This episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast is sponsored by bulk spirits and barrel broker Chevalier Cask. With over a decade of industry experience and access to rare and bulk spirits, the mission of Chevalier Cask is to help brands find the spirits and barrels they need to produce award-winning products. Every month, Chevalier will highlight new product offerings and noteworthy sales, like the recently sold 2 totes of 10-year Kentucky bourbon and 5 barrels of 19-year-old Kentucky bourbon. This month's unique offering is an exclusive listing. Chevalier has a ladder of 200 barrels each year from 2 to 7 years old of Kentucky bourbon that was distilled at Bardstown Bourbon Company and aged in premium-grade Canton barrels, coopered from 36-month-old air-dried oak staves. This unique tranche of barrels is an excellent way for a brand to enter and continue in the market with 7-year product. Chevalier also offers access to thousands of bulk whiskey barrels and new Spanish and French oak barrels. For more information, go to chevaliercask.com. James E. Pepper Barrel Proof Decanter Bourbon, distilled at the historic Pepper Distillery, DSP KY5 in Lexington, Kentucky. This new release, bottled in a striking recreated distillery decanter from the 1940s, has garnered high praise and accolades. Coming in at number 27 on Fred Minnick's Top 100 Whiskeys of 2023, it received a 94-point rating and was called absolutely delicious with notes of delicate hazelnut and toffee. Astor Wines, one of New York's most prestigious retailers, writes, "The whiskeys coming of age now are some of the finest from any American whiskey producer. This bourbon is arguably the most impressive you will find at this age. Available nationwide with a suggested retail price of $65. Learn more at jamesepepper.com. All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight live in the Bourbon Life studios, it is my good non-beanie wearing friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing tonight, man?
Mark, I'm doing great this evening. And yourself? Things good in Mission Control Situation Room? Looking good there?
Yeah, man, got it all under control. Got the, UK Blue, since he's an Auburn guy. Got my UK Blue light going in the background. Go Cats, yeah. We're going to have an SEC showdown right here on the Bourbon Life Podcast.
You're east and I'm west.
Thank God, man. Yeah. You guys would kill us. But yeah, so we're having a good time tonight, Matt. I'm having a good time. I hope you are. You seem like you're having a good time so far.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we are, of course, the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support, all the support of all of our sponsors. Couldn't do the show without them each week. So thank you to all of our sponsors for everything that they do for us. Matt, with that said, let's just get right into it, man. Tell everybody who we have with us tonight.
Absolutely. Joining us this evening, joining you all this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whatever it is you're getting your Bourbon Life Podcast. Tim Piersant is the CEO and co-founder of Chattanooga Whiskey, and we've got him back here for the second round. Tim, welcome on back to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. We're only 1 round down. We got 2 to go, Tim.
I could be here all night, man. This is what I do.
Yeah,
Looks
man.
like you're having a
Smoke.
gorgeous night there in Chattanooga. You're
Yeah,
sitting
no doubt.
outdoors.
I am. It is very nice for the time being, and don't ask me a month from now because I won't be outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, 95 degrees and terrible humidity down there.
Yep, it gets pretty hot.
For sure, no doubt about it. Well, man, we're having a good time. This round, we got something different poured up. We kind of talked about it a little bit in the first round, but would you like to tell everybody what we're going to be sipping on this second round, Tim?
Yes, so Chattanooga 111. We call this the big brother or big sister to Chattanooga 91 because it shares the same recipe. That's the 4-grain 3 malt, so non-GMO yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, honey malted barley. And now this product is not Solera barrel finished like 91 is. One of the key differentiators is that this is an unfiltered barrel forward product, and so we promote the more of the barrel character out of 111 because of that, and the char, of course, that is in half of those barrels. It is still a blend of 50-50, 4 chars with no toast, and then 3 chars with our custom 91 toast profile. But again, with it being unfiltered, we allow the char sediment to pass through from every barrel into every bottle, which creates significant viscosity, full-bodied flavor, and really kind of enriches and deepens a lot of those flavors you get out of 91. It goes several layers deeper.
Yeah, Matt, what are you picking up in terms of the nose on this one, man?
Yeah, it certainly does have a really rich nose. The barrel comes through with both the toasted oak qualities, kind of like those light campfire, marshmallow type notes as well, but also that heavy char, like those deep wood sugars, that char note really come through from the barrel. Like just think of like that really nice like campfire wood aroma, not even like the smoke, just like nice woody aroma. But then the bourbon in there itself like lends to some really, really deep, rich, roasty, malted flavors as well. I think like that toffee note comes through, the roasted and toasted notes on the malt really shine. There's a sweetness from the corn, and also this the rye plays really well in it. It's just a really nice, like really rich, complex nose that brings together, I think, all the best parts of both distillate and barrel.
Yeah, Matt, I just bit into a delicious roasted marshmallow, and there's a nice little cake of chocolate off of that s'more that Tim was talking about.
There you go. Yeah,
earlier,
exactly. I'm glad you get it.
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, seriously, I'm sitting here just nosing this, and this is almost dessert-like to me. It's kind of crazy how I mean, you talk about pancakes, and now I'm thinking maple syrup. I'm thinking toasted marshmallows, thinking all that good stuff, but still that little bit of rye still comes through to me. I picked it up on the nose on the 91. So I get a little bit of that kind of peppery kind of aroma as well, almost like a peppered maple syrup, or peppered bacon, without the bacon, of course, but you get that syrupy, sweet, peppery flavor. Yeah, man, that's really nice. So Tim, anything else we missed on that one?
No, I think you guys, it sounds like you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Oh yeah, we're picking it up.
When you get just the richness of the product, you mentioned you might get a hint of chocolate out of 91. I think 111, yeah, you might, it's designed to get a hint of chocolate, but 111 is really designed to bring that chocolate out of the flavor profile, and it sounds like you guys are enjoying the experience. Dessert profile for sure. We hear that a lot. That 111 is super rich, and it's certainly what I love about it. And yeah, man, it's the center of the s'more. So
yeah. So Tim, I'm curious, man, because I'm a neat drinker for the most part, right? So I'm just curious if you drop ice in this one, thinking of that like a dessert type of thing. And I think sometimes people want to drop ice in whiskey as well. And Does that change that complexity much on that, or does it change the way it tastes? Oh, you're drinking. Okay, there you go.
Well, look at me. I've got ice in my bourbon as we speak. So.
All right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it unlocks flavors for sure. I'm a huge fan of trying everything neat and then trying everything with ice in it. And me personally, I'd say that half the year I'm drinking it on the rocks and half the year I'm not. And
yeah,
you're absolutely unlocking additional flavors by dropping ice into the product. I love 111 on the rocks. 111 is it's high enough proof. Our barrel entry proof is 115. Actually, okay. So again, every step of the process, it's not just 115. We actually go 113, 115, 117, and we do that because we believe that we don't want to just lock ourselves into one singular barrel entry proof. So. Again, that's for complexity reasons. That's for bringing the best out of the product that we can bring out of it. But regardless, you blend those together. Let's just say an average of 115. That's a pretty low barrel entry proof, and because of that, we have it says cask on the label. It's cask forward. We can confidently hit 111 consistently. With our lower barrel entry proofs, if it were truly cask strength, which like our single barrels are, then obviously those range in proofs and can be upwards of, depending on what happens with evaporation, can be upwards of above 120 proof. But so we don't call it cask strength, we call it cask forward, but 111. It can sneak up on you, right? It is a full-bodied product. If you're not used to drinking cask forward products, it can do some damage. So I do love sipping it neat, but I also strongly encourage people to drop a rock or 2 or 3 in there as well. And I think it unlocks a lot of awesome flavors when you do that.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind because I tasted it. I'm like, yeah, this is delicious, and I'm thinking, man, dessert. Maybe some ice, so I'm definitely going to have to try this. Matt, you got the bottle out there. If you don't care, hold that up so everybody can see what we're talking about here. Forgot to do that. Yeah, there you go. So everybody can see. Beautiful bottles too, by the way, man. I love the look of those. It's almost like a Prohibition style type of bottle to me with that glass that you get the raised glass. You got the design and everything. Was that kind of the theory on that?
Yes, yes, it was. And all, there were some elements of bottled and bond that are in that. We call it the hug, where the label kind of wraps around. And
right.
Yeah, I think there's lots of inspiration in that packaging. We take our packaging really seriously, primarily because it's not only one of my passions, but the first employee we ever hired. Back in 2011, 2012, was our creative director, Rich Abercrombie. And to this day, Rich Abercrombie, nearly 13 years later, is still our creative director. And we've done 100% of our branding and our packaging in-house. And it's just been such an amazing storytelling, piece of what we do. It's critical to what we do. And we've taken a lot of elements of the 1816 packaging that are in there that it might not be as obvious to the average consumer, but man, there's just layers and layers of storytelling in our packaging, and I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, man. Very, very beautiful bottles you got there. So let's talk about the brand itself. Talk about the creation. If you can share with our listeners, you kind of talked a little bit about how you decided to do it, and your passion for it. That it really wasn't about distilling initially, but can you talk about how the concept, everything came together to kind of put you on that path to start the brand, and how you went about doing that?
Yeah. So when my co-founder and I were exploring or uncovering pre-Prohibition whiskey in Chattanooga, there were so many brands, and it was just so, especially in 2011, it was so cool and nostalgic, and you're looking at all that stuff, and you could revive any one of those brands. But for us, it was really about telling the story of bringing this back to the city of Chattanooga, and that's why we decided to call it Chattanooga Whiskey. We wanted it to be all-encompassing. We wanted it to be all-encompassing of great whiskey that was once made, and then of course proudly representing the city today and in the future. And so we launched Chattanooga Whiskey. We worked with a local designer to start telling the story. The city, before it was actually legally a city, the first community was established in 1816. That's why we called it 1816 back then. That was formed at Ross's Landing from Chief John Ross, and so the 4-number thing, no one ever got right. No one could ever, it was like when you're building a brand, we wanted to tell the story Chattanooga Whiskey 1816, but a lot of people were like, well, they would confuse, like, okay, they would remember the 1816 part, they wouldn't remember the Chattanooga part, or they remember the Chattanooga part and they wouldn't remember the 1816 part, or they never, it was the the war or battle of 1812, and they would never get 1816 right. So ultimately, as we went through our lobbying phase, it became about Vote Whiskey. Vote Whiskey was the catalyst to creating awareness and driving the community behind getting these laws changed. We fought the county at the county level. We fought at the state level. We formed new House bills, House Bill 102, Senate Bill 129. We changed the distilling laws and made it legal for the majority of the 95 counties in the state of Tennessee, really only because we wanted to distill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but the only way to do it was if we changed distilling laws across the entire state of Tennessee. My co-founder and I split in 2014. I was through the process of trying to keep the the wheels on the rails. We explored the operation up at New Riff because we were working with Vendome on trying to create our manufacturing equipment. They introduced us to Brian Sprantz at New Riff, who introduced me and a couple of the people at Chattanooga Whiskey back then to Grant McCracken, who was the head brewer of Boston Beer, who was interested in creating a career in distilling. Ultimately, that worked out. We brought Grant down. He became Chattanooga Whiskey's first head distiller. We built the first distillery in Chattanooga in 100 years together, and that is the Chattanooga Whiskey Experimental Distillery in 2015. And then this is where the curveball really comes in. It was that operation is a 100-gallon pot still. It can only produce 50 barrels of bourbon a year. And so Grant challenged me on what the future of Chattanooga Whiskey looked like and said, look, dude, if we can only produce 50 barrels a year and you plan on us building something larger someday, why don't we use these 50 barrels a year to explore the world of specialty malt, which was Grant's background at Boston Beer. Okay. And because we didn't have any investors that had any stake in the spirits industry, they had these were all successful, great, amazing people that had zero connection to the spirits world. They were looking to us for direction, right? So Grant suggests something that I think is really cool in exploring specialty malted grain on a daily basis and really converting this small distillery experience into a playground for specialty malted bourbon and American whiskey. And no one is there to tell me no. So we do it. And 2 years later, because the experience was a great experience, and we had 40,000+ people a year from all over the world coming through our distillery and wanting to experience Chattanooga whiskey. It gave us the ability, the financial ability to do this. And all of a sudden in 2017, after we decided, hey, we're really at the end of 2016, let's do a capital round. Let's build a larger distillery. Let's scale some recipes up. We don't know what those recipes are going to be. We have no idea what the future of Chattanooga whiskey product looks like, but we're going to build a 50,000 square foot distillery. We're going to put away 2,000 barrels a year, and we're going to hope like hell that we have some really good products to scale up from experimental. And we did. I mean, we went through this process as a team. We had 100 different recipes, and we went through it like bracketology, like it was March Madness. And we ended up with the final four, and Barrel 91 was in the final four. We chose Barrel 91 to replace Chattanooga Whiskey 1816 Reserve and 1816 Cask. That was the 4-grain 3-malt in a recipe that we've been talking about tonight. And then we ended up scaling up more than 30 other recipes from experimental over to Riverfront. And to this day, from March of 2015 until now in 2024, we have distilled and barreled approximately 500 experimental barrels. That's the majority, the vast majority of those are different recipes. I don't know, 300 plus different recipes at least in that. I mean, most of our batches don't exceed 2 to 3 barrels. So then, over at Riverfront, we've scaled up 30 plus recipes. We've been able to put away approximately 2,000 barrels a year, and we've scaled up to 16 states. We are north of a 50,000 case brand as a small, independently owned, privately owned, locally owned distillery, and I think we're one of the very, very few that's been able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish to this day.
Yeah, man. That's incredible, man. Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing. So Matt, let's jump back over to this 111, talk a little bit about it in terms of the palate and the finish. What do you pick up on that?
The dessert notes are definitely on the palate for me. There's like waffle cone batter, and it comes across right up front. Some of those fruit notes too that I picked up on the 91 are almost like a little more subtle, like not as pronounced, but definitely there. There's like some like really nice like dark fermented grape or like raisin notes, just again like kind of playing with those, the sweetness of the waffle cones, sort of the rye spice comes in, some of those baking spices as well out of there. The barley, the different barley notes as well, the roasted and malted barleys are there in sort of that chocolate note that we were talking about, Mark. Some of the graham cracker, almost like bread pudding type notes to really play through. And then it drinks with more body, a little oilier, definitely a longer finish, certainly not at all hot. At 111 proof, I don't think it drinks anywhere remotely close to that. I think it's very, very nice and approachable. I don't believe that anyone would find this to be super, super warm, but probably with a cube or two in there, it just unlocks even more.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt. And I agree, again, like the 91, I mean, from the nose to the palate to the finish, very consistent across the board, more dessert-like, like we talked about on the nose, comes through on the palate as well. I get almost like a little hint of leather on this one, almost like it's an older type of whiskey. So it's kind of unique and I don't know if it's the malt that's doing that or if it's just the actual whiskey itself that it has that flavor profile to it, but it's almost like a slight hint of leather. But that chocolate does come through more pronounced on this one for me than the 91. Matt, you talked about the fruitiness as well. There's a sweetness to it, but it is like a fruit sweetness as well. And I can't put my finger on what it actually is. But again, combined with that chocolate, it's just a nice, like a chocolate covered fruit almost type of a flavor. But yeah, and that finish, man, it's just a nice, rye, a little bit of spiciness on there, but the sweetness keeps coming back. It's kind of a contrast between sweetness and a little bit of spiciness and a sweetness. Very, very nice, man. Really like this. Tim, what else? Anything else on the palate and finish?
No, I think chocolate covered cherry is a very popular.
Yeah. Yep.
Tasty note. I think there's a hint of cinnamon typically in that people get out of 111. There's kind of a sweet tea note that brings 91 and 111 together. I feel like sweet tea is something that a lot of people frequently get out of that. Our distillers have picked up some toasted coconut in 111 specifically. So yeah, I think you guys sounds like a lot of the notes that you're getting are a lot of the notes that we're after.
It's what you're laying down, man. We're picking it up.
I love it. I love it. For once.
So Matt, we're at the end of round 2 here. So what are your final thoughts on this one?
It's great. It's a good progression to go through, drink the 91 and then drink the 111, tasting them back to back. Really, again, shows like the intention behind the reason for each.
Yeah, I agree. Very nice. I'm glad we switched that up. Tim, I thought, initially I was like, probably going to want to do it that way. It makes a lot more sense to do 91 and 111.
Yeah,
we got something.
Yep. Yeah, I like to introduce people to the kind of the lighter side. It's like a palate warmer upper, before you dive into the deep end.
Yeah, very, very nice. Looking forward to round 3 for sure. So guys, let's take a quick break. Let's get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Tim Piersant, the CEO and founder of Chattanooga Whiskey, in just a minute.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky. Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios, it is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing out there, man?
Mark, I'm doing great out here. Nice to be sitting down in the Bourbon Life Studios, getting another one down, laying down an episode here.
Yeah, man. You know what, Matt? I'm going to get you one of those little foot pedal things you can put under the desk. So when you're sitting out there, rather than just sitting there drinking whiskey, you can sit there, drink whiskey, and pedal. So I've got you doing some exercise while we're doing this.
Yeah, God forbid I actually get to enjoy an evening off.
Or I get you a treadmill, a little tread. I'll get you just a walking treadmill. You can stand at the desk and just walk the whole time while you're. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, look forward to it.
Oh, man. All right, guys. So we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support. We appreciate the support of all of our sponsors. We could not do this show every week without their assistance and help. I couldn't bring you great guests like the one we have tonight for sure. With that said, Matt, would you like to tell everybody who our great guest is that we do have with us this evening?
That's right. Back for the third and final round here on the Bourbon Life Podcast is Tim Piersant, the CEO and founder of Chattanooga Whiskey. Tim, welcome on back.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
Hey, thanks for not leaving. Yeah, thanks for sticking around, man.
Well, I mean, we're just hanging out and drinking, so I don't want to leave.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's funny though, when you messaged me earlier, I was like, man, I remember those days. They were long gone for me, man. But yeah, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to have the
kids being out for summer. Yeah. It's good for the first 2 weeks, and then the rest of the summer sucks. So.
Yeah, it's like daddy needs a little break, kids. Daddy's gonna be on the porch.
Yeah.
Daddy's working.
Don't worry about daddy's break. Mommy needs a break. That's the real. Yeah. I feel this right here is a real luxury. So let's keep this thing going all night if possible.
There you go. We're gonna keep going.
Right,
We're gonna set a world. I think our record is a little over 2 hours with Fred No. Of course, once you get Fred No talking, it's hard to get him to stop, which is great. We had a great time, but yeah, he holds the record. He and Freddie hold the record at a little over 2 hours on the podcast. So. Yeah. You got a ways to go for that one, Tim.
Yeah, I'll try. I mean, brevity is not my specialty, but I am not going to try and compete with Fred. So.
Yeah, well, we appreciate our listeners probably appreciate that too. They're probably like, man, 3 hours of this guy. Yeah. Come on, no.
Nobody wants to listen to 3 hours of me.
Oh man, no, it's a great story, man. I love what you guys have done, man. It's been a lot of fun learning about the history and how you guys. I mean, a lot of hard work that went into just getting you to the point where you could do this, and then the hard work that goes into actually, running and building a distillery. So third round, we got something special poured up here for us. If you want to tell everybody what we're going to be drinking on this round, that'd be great.
Yes, so this is the Chattanooga Whiskey Founders Anniversary Edition. We only do once a year for our anniversary. This is the third iteration. So we had a 10th anniversary, 11th, and 12th. And for the 12th anniversary, it is a unique blend of our 3 different Solera barrels that is very unique to Chattanooga Whiskey's operation. And we call this a blend of our past, our present, and our future. So the past would be the Chattanooga Whiskey 1816 that came from MGP that I referenced earlier. The present would be Chattanooga 91 in the 4,000-gallon White Oak Solera barrel, which is our flagship. And then our future is a 1,700-gallon White Oak Solera barrel that has more than 30 different recipes in it from between our riverfront operation and our experimental operation. And that is our commitment to exploration and to innovation, and that is what we call infinity. And so Founders is a blend of 91, 1816, and infinity, and each year it's not only a different percentage of each one of those Solera barrels, but the Solera barrels themselves evolve over each year. So.
Yeah, okay. So Matt, what do you pick up on this one in terms of the nose?
It's got that really rich and complex nose on this one. I haven't really had enough time with it, but initially I'm picking up a lot of fruit notes. Yeah. It's like good.
If I didn't know better, I'd say this is almost like a wine barrel finished whiskey. I mean, I'm picking up all these type of kind of rich fruit notes, Matt. I don't know. Do you agree with that, or he's like, no?
Possibly. I could see like some of like the dark stone fruits. There's like a little bit of fig or almost like bright apricot, something to it as well. But good barrel influence with it. I think the corn comes across really well in this. There's like a sweetness, kind of like a cream corn, almost like a caramel corn note to it. I think it's really inviting, really nice on the nose, but I think it's really complex. I could imagine like sitting around and just finding a whole lot more as it continues to open up in the glass, but just really, really lovely.
Yeah, I get that. Matt, I always talk about Topps baseball cards. You open up that pack, you get that pink bubble gum in there, that corn starchy white powder all over that crumbly stick of gum, but it had that wonderful sweet aroma to it. I actually picked some of that up on this when I first nosed it. I was like, man, that's really nice. But I get that fruit smell, like you said, like stone fruits of some form. Mm-hmm. And like I said, almost like maybe a wine barrel finished. It's what it kind of struck me as. But a lot of that sugary notes as well. To me, it's again kind of like a dark, almost like a brown sugar, maybe molasses type of smell. Just kind of very dark sugary note that comes through. So yeah, man, very, very nice. Tim, anything else that we didn't point out on the nose on that one you can think of?
So some of the fruit notes that you might be getting, I get as well, and it's like a combination of like Tootsie Roll and maybe some like dark red fruit, and that I think that is super present in our Infinity Barrel. That is largely malt. I mean, it's different. It's a variety of different rye malts and in different specialty malt barleys that are in that. So I think the Infinity Barrel itself. At one point I had pushed a Founder's Blend that was a largely Infinity Barrel, but it was but because Infinity Barrel is largely malt whiskey, and the previous two releases, the 10th release and the 11th release, were heavy bourbon releases. Technically 11th was not a bourbon, but it was still heavily bourbon influenced. Technically 10th was a bourbon. I didn't want to rock the boat that hard and go from two more bourbon influenced releases to one that's like a total malt whiskey release. But it is heavily influenced by the Infinity Barrel. This blend in particular. So it is approximately 60% 91. So it's heavily influenced and kind of grounded by the 91 flavor profile. And it is only 12% 1816. So it's 12% the past. So you would, in 1816 has a very distinct profile that I call it, it's like this traditional flavor profile that my personal palate has kind of evolved away from, actually, which is really, really bizarre. But I pick up, still a pretty strong hint of 1816 in there, and then 28% is Infinity, and so it brings this kind of like this dark red Tootsie Roll forward flavor profile that I personally prefer. Like I really love that flavor profile.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah. So Tim, you've talked a little bit about the Tennessee High Malt, and that's included in the name of your whiskey. It's on there. Can you talk about what that means to you and the decision to use that terminology on your bottles?
Yeah. So Chattanooga Whiskey, we have our own unique style of bourbon called Tennessee High Malt, and I like to say in presentations that Jack Daniel's is known for Tennessee whiskey, obviously, and that's awesome. Chattanooga Whiskey, we want to be known for Tennessee High Malt, and it is a category. Well, excuse me, it's really not a category. It's a style that we founded and trademarked throughout this experimentation phase, and it was born out of Grant and I wanting to change the rules of bourbon, and having the opportunity to do that on a 100-gallon pot still at the experimental distillery, and Grant's background in craft beer, where specialty malted grains are king, and back in 2015, that world had not been explored, specialty malts in bourbon, and maybe American single malt was starting to get started, but still it was relatively unknown. So essentially any cereal grain can be malted, and so corn can be malted, rye, barley, oat, wheat, etc. And what you're doing is you're taking that cereal grain, you're steeping it in water. It's beginning to sprout. There's a germination process, and then you're kilning it. And in the kilning process, based on time and temperature, you're roasting and toasting that grain. And there are a variety of maltsters out there that are working with farmers and grain suppliers. and it's an amazing craft within itself, and it's expensive. I mean, malted grain is on average probably 10 times the cost of raw grain.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't know it was that expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. And so, traditionally you just don't have bourbon distillers really leaning on malted grains, because it's really about corn, rye, pale malt barley, or corn, wheat, pale malt barley, and allowing the barrel to do the heavy lifting when it comes to the flavor profile, the caramels, the vanillas, like those things, right?
Yep.
And it's not as much about the versatility or the variety of the recipe and the grains and the specialty malted grains that go in the recipe. And that's where we wanted to change the game. We wanted to change the rules. And that's where Tennessee High Malt was born out of the experimental distillery and exploring the different recipes. And then we were bold enough, I think, to find a recipe that we thought could compete with any bourbon, with any traditional bourbon out there, and that was the 91 recipe, and scale that up to a pretty significant level from a craft perspective.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into the next question, and we alluded to it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the 91. Going from sourced whiskey from MGP and dealing with, I guess, a higher rye kind of bourbon, to creating your own product. You're building a fan base, obviously, with people using sourced bourbon, and then it comes to a point where it's like, well, we're gonna be switching to our own distillate. Can you talk about that? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what goes into that and how big of a change and a big decision that actually is.
It was scary.
I'm sure it was, man. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was very scary. We had built, I want to say we got 1816 up to about 16 or 17,000 cases in sales, in annual sales. And for a very small company with just a few employees, that was a lot of revenue. That was our bread and butter. And so to have the kind of faith and passion that we had in a product, in a Tennessee High Malt product, in this 91 recipe, to replace that and to completely replace that and move forward in this new direction was it was very risky, but it was very calculated. When we went through the process of selecting a recipe through experimental, okay, how are we going to choose one of these recipes we've developed to replace 1816? We kept 1816 in mind the whole time. We kept the traditional bourbon thing in mind. The last thing we wanted to do was alienate all of our consumers with a peated smoky whiskey. You know what I mean? And we have it. We do have a peated bourbon. We've worked with a variety. We've worked with a variety of Isla barrels, and it's been successful, but at a small, a very, very small percentage of our overall business. But the last thing we wanted to do was alienate a 17,000 case traditional bourbon brand. And in the 91 recipe, we felt like checked all of the bourbon boxes. It checked the caramel, it checked the vanilla, it checked the oak, but it brought in the honey glazed graham cracker. It brought in the sweet tea. It brought in these roasted and toasted kind of sweet, rich elements that we love about a high malt bourbon, and that's why we call Chattanooga whiskey the dark chocolate versus every other bourbon's milk chocolate.
Gotcha.
And so we just went after it, and kind of a really interesting kind of fun part of that release from Riverfront, anyways, when we finally ripped that Band-Aid and went 100% authentically Chattanooga made, I was scared to death. So every 3 to 6 months, I was back in the barrel house. I was drilling into barrels constantly, sampling barrels constantly, like, oh, please God, let this be a bourbon that people will enjoy, because it was completely different. No one had it before. And not to mention you're making it on a pot still, but then all of a sudden you're making it at scale on a column still, which two completely different processes make very different products. Just because it has a taste profile off of a 100-gallon pot still, it will not have the same taste profile off of a column still. So there was that variable as well that was really scary. And so I'm tasting it every 3 months, and I get, and it was like, man, I think it's there. Like, I mean, I see the potential, but it was obviously very raw, very unaged. And we get to I want to say like month 19, 18, 19, something like that. It had been several months since I tasted the product. We drill in. I taste the product, and it honestly, like, it was an amazing experience. The product, it turned, it converted. Like, there was a process between 12, 15, 16, 17. Something had happened. I think it might have been an additional summer. It was some level of evaporation, and it hit this beautiful note. And I secretly, so Grant McCracken, our chief product officer and founding distiller, he is a perfectionist. He would have killed me if he knew that I was taking this product in 100 ml samples, and I was taking it to all of the chefs around Chattanooga that had amazing palates, and I was tasting them on it. And I went and bought Weller 12 and Eagle Rare and Woodford, and I don't know, a handful of different products, a Four Roses single barrel, some like some great solid bourbons that the average consumer is like, man, this is like really good bourbon, right? And I put them all in 100 ml bottles, and I blinded them in 100 ml bottles, and I put Chattanooga Whiskey 91 recipe, toasted barrel, 19 months in that blind. Didn't tell them what anything was in there. I blinded close to 100 people in Chattanooga. I would say the vast majority, chefs, head bartenders, refined palates, and Chattanooga Whiskey 91 won. I don't have the exact number. It's over 90 times. I want to say it was like 92 or 93 of the 100 times. And every single time I asked them, what is the age of this product? And they would say, I would say like between 8 and 10 years old. What is the proof of this product? I would say like between 90 and 100 proof. It was 19 months, and it was 118 proof.
Wow.
And
that's crazy,
that's
man.
That's when I knew. To me, that was the answer. It was like, all right, guys, look, we've hit it. Like, this is our future right here.
That's great. Speaking of the future, Matt, let's talk about this Founders. Talk about the palate and the finish on this. What do you pick up on this one?
The malt is definitely there. I think on the nose it's a little subdued, but on the palate, that malt, the Infinity blend, the Infinity Solera, definitely comes through and shines on the palate. There are those like rich roasted and toasted notes we're talking about, like the rich cereal grains. Think of like toffee, kind of chocolate, roasted, rich notes. I get like chocolate covered strawberry on this one, kind of like all day long, with like cocoa, like a dark chocolate cocoa dust, or like kind of just this bitter cocoa at the end. And then at 100 proof, I think it actually has a nice warm, long finish to it as well. I think some of the other product coming through really adds to that longer finish. But this is like a great expression of the malt that you were talking about, Tim.
Awesome.
And going that direction, and maybe not going like whole hog into the malt, but letting it play more of a star. I think this is doing it really well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. Lots of chocolatey aromas, flavors. I get like this little whiff of coffee as well. On the finish, especially, just kind of, it's like every time I take a deep breath or something, it's like this, because I love espresso, and it's like I get that little hint that reminds me of an espresso, and I'm sure that's from the malt as well. But yeah, man, just very nice, man. Just from nose to palate to finish, Tim, this one across the board, it just hits all the right notes, man. It's delicious, very drinkable at 100 proof, like Matt said. Just really nice, man. So
awesome.
Anything we missed in terms of palate and finish on that?
No, it's your palate. I think you guys. I love the toffee notes. I love anything in that realm. I think that is absolutely what we are after. Each Founders is going to be a different flavor profile because it's a different blend of the 3 Solera barrels. Like I said, the Infinity barrel, it changes a lot from year to year. Even though we never drain the barrels, of course, for the Solera process. We only produce about 1,900 cases of Founders. So when you spread that over 16 states, it does not get very far, as you can imagine. So it's a pretty limited release. And so far, it's been really fun to see people's reactions about, it's got a little bit of that tradition in it, in 1816. It's got that core of 91 in it, that kind of honey glazed graham cracker type note, and then it has that high malt influence in it that is very kind of toffee, strawberry, those notes that you guys are talking about, and just super complex, and that's what we love. We love the complexity of the products we put out.
Yeah, just very nice. I actually had to pour myself a second one already, just to because it's so good. So, but we're almost at the end of the episode here, man. Believe it or not, unfortunately, because I think we could probably go for another hour or longer on this one, Tim. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you guys, I believe, were the craft producer of the year last year. Is that right? With the Icons of Whiskey?
We were. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we were super proud to be named the craft producer of the year for both nationwide and worldwide. We had to go against some great distilleries to get that. And, there's a lot of awards out there, right? I think we're north of 50, and while we are a very award-winning bourbon, there are products out there that have many more awards than we do. But for us, the reality is that the craft producer of the year worldwide actually speaks to what we do, and we believe that we earned that. We believe that we are the best craft producer worldwide. So it was an honor to get that and tout it every chance we get. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
So before we wrap it up, anything future, what's it look like? Anything coming up, big time, big news? Anything you want to share with us, breaking news on the Bourbon Life Podcast tonight, Tim?
Man, this is it right here, is to share the good news of Chattanooga Whiskey, is to let people know that what we are doing is truly unique. It is truly high quality. It is truly craft. It is independently owned. It's our own unique style of bourbon, and we think we're the best at what we do. And so, when it comes to Tennessee and what is being produced in Tennessee, there's a lot of distilleries. There's a lot happening here, like there is now in most states of the U.S. And we believe that we're number one. And so we don't get an opportunity to tell that story often enough. And I just appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity and the platform to be able to tell it.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, man. We've had a good time tonight. No question about it. I always like to ask our guests before we close it out, what's been the best part of this journey for you so far, Tim?
It's the people. I mean, the people and the branding, the storytelling behind branding. I mean, I like to be able to. This is kind of funny. I started Auburn as an art major, And I met my wife in figure drawing class. We were actually we were drawing nude models together. That's literally how we met. And both of our passions were fine arts and eventually graphic design. I ended up changing majors to communications. She graduated in graphic design. I finished in communications. When you start as an art major and you finish as a communication major, basically that means you don't know what you want to do with your life and your career. And I cannot believe that I landed in a career that I use art and communications primarily every single day. And and it truly is the I feel like there's no other career I could have done where I would have paired those two things together as significantly as they've been paired together at Chattanooga Whiskey. So, and then, man, the people of bourbon and the people of the consumers and on the industry side, it's just an amazing community. So, I don't know. It's the storytelling. It's the people. And it's the brand building. It's the organic nature of what we do in building a business. I'm the least structured person you'll ever meet. I'm ADHD. I'm all over the place all the time. But this allows me to be able to express myself and do it in a way that I really enjoy it. So
yeah, I mean, you get to set your rules, right? I mean, which is kind of cool. Which is very cool.
Try. Yeah.
So folks coming to Chattanooga, they can visit the experimental distillery. Is that right? You guys have tours and things there?
Yes. So the Chattanooga Whiskey Experimental Distillery, it's one of the top tourist attractions in Chattanooga, rated by TripAdvisor, not just my word. And it is it's open 7 days a week. So please come and take a tour there. We do tours every hour on the hour. And you get to explore offerings there that you can't get anywhere else. That if we make it there, then it's only sold there. It's not sold elsewhere. And then reach out to us on Instagram at Chat Whiskey. We're super active. And then info@ChattanoogaWhiskey.com if you have questions. I'm on info@ChattanoogaWhiskey.com, and I see those emails come across every day. So let us know.
Okay, great. Because that was going to be my next question. Where can people get more information? Obviously, where can they find your products? You said you're in 16 states, right? So
16 states, all Midwest, Southeast, and South Central. So as far west as Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, as far north as Wisconsin, Chicago, or Illinois, and Michigan, and then as far south as the Keys. So
awesome.
Yeah, you can and ChattanoogaWhiskey.com has information on every single one of our releases, including our experimental releases. It is it's like truly super deep when it comes to recipes, grains, etc. You're not going to see that on most other websites. So our level of transparency is well above the norm. So you can explore that as well.
That was one thing I was going to say on your bottles. There's no question about it. A lot of transparency. We definitely appreciate that. So any final thoughts, Tim, before we wrap it up tonight?
No, I appreciate you guys being interested in Chattanooga Whiskey and for the time. And I hope that everybody has an opportunity to at least try the product. And I hope you reach out because, we love to connect with people. So we're unapologetic about everything we do and happy to talk about anything that we do. So
awesome. Matt, final thoughts, man, before we wrap it up tonight.
Hey Tim, thanks for taking the time sitting down with us and all of our guests, our listeners out here, talking through Chattanooga Whiskey and going through the intent that you put into everything, the care, the reason, and why you're doing it, transparency behind it, and putting great stuff in the bottle and sharing it with all of us and with hopefully all of our listeners as well. So we appreciate your time, and I'll be in touch with you the next time I'm in town.
Please do. I'll be rooting for you next time you're in town. Now that I know that you're a stud Ironman athlete, I'll be your #1 fan. So come on down.
That's super
that's
kind of
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, and Matt, thanks for taking the time to do that, because I was able to pour myself yet another pour of this Founders because it's absolutely delicious. So I'm going to go upstairs and drop an ice cube in it. No, not this one. I like this one the way it is. So, Tim, thanks so much, man, for joining us tonight. We're about to lose you there in the darkness.
I know.
We kept you on for so long, man, but we appreciate you hanging out with us, man, spending time talking us through your expressions here and the history, the creation of the brand. A great story, man. Love what you guys are doing. Matt and I obviously big fans of what we had to drink here tonight. Look forward to coming down and visiting you guys in person. It'd be a lot of fun to head down there and check you guys out. We'd definitely like to do that sometime soon.
Please do.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for everything, and congratulations on all the success. And here's to your continued success as well. And with that said, I'm gonna wrap up our show here. We are the Bourbon Life Podcast, presented by Liquor Barn. Again, we have to thank them, or we don't have to. We get to thank them. We appreciate everything they do for us. Appreciate all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. We couldn't bring you great shows like this every week without their support. If you want to find out more information about us, you can find us on the Bourbon Life on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a private Facebook group, the Bourbon Lifers. Feel free to jump in there and join us. Have some fun conversations going on in there. So check that out. If you want to email us, you can reach out to us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com, and that comes directly to me. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. We'd appreciate that. Also, check out the Whiskey Trip. Our good friend, Big Chief, or Big Tex, as Matt likes to call him, Mike, is doing the Whiskey Trip podcast that comes out every Tuesday under our umbrella. He's doing some great shows on there and visiting some great distilleries and doing some great work. So check out the Whiskey Trip. Give him a like and follow on Instagram and Facebook as well. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us on with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their exclusive Behind the Beam tour and monthly Claremont Supper Club events, which will feature their 2024 Bardstown Bourbon Collection James B. Beam Distilling Company release on June 13th. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.